This is the solution video for the DVD Bouncer Challenge. Hopefully it's easy to understand. I'll try to explain it slowly because I'm not actually creating the solution in this video. I already have it pre-created. The challenge was to use on-mouse move and if statements to make a program that as you move the mouse, it'll animate the DVD acronym, I guess, bouncing around the screen and changing color as it bounces. So yeah, I mean, let's get started. Let's take a look at it. So let me just move myself over here as we look at the code and get that out of the way. Okay. We create the background, and this was all given to you in the skeleton code. We create the DVD, give it, make it a label, give it some custom properties that we're going to be using to store information and editing as we go into our functions. And then over here, this is where the comments kind of come in handy. We say as the mouse moves, the DVD will move and bounce off the sides. It will also call the helper function to change color on each bounce. So on mouse move, what's going to happen is first I'll be moving the DVD. So I'm not using the input for this function. We're using global variables. It's all going to be kind of gross. Sorry. We haven't learned about why that matters yet at this point in the curriculum. But yeah, let's keep going. No need to be discussing that. What was I talking about? Right, so dv.centerx is going to be incremented every tick of this function by the DVD's movex. At the start, the movex is +5, and the same thing will happen with the center y plus equals the move y. If I add a -3, that's going to be like subtracting 3. So that's why you can see at the very beginning of this program, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. At the very beginning of this program, when I run it, it starts at +5 for the x, -3 for the y. Negative y makes you go up. So as I start, and I'll try to go slowly, you can see it's moving +5 to the right every time I move my mouse a tiny bit, and -3 in the y. And then what happens is eventually I hit an edge, and now I'm still moving negative in the y, up in the y, but my x changed directions. And I'm realizing now as I'm looking at this that because my screen's mirrored, the way that it makes sense for me to be pointing is the opposite of what's on the screen here. Sorry, hopefully you're understanding what's happening. As I hit the top, I change color, and then it's going to start going down. As I hit the left, I'm going to change color, and then it's going to bounce to start going right. And the way we dealt with this was by just several if statements. This is technically for, I guess, like 3.2 in the CMU curriculum. So I just did a bunch of if statements one after another. I would prefer to make them elif statements so that it's all just one big block. It doesn't actually affect what ends up happening in this program. So if you're in 3.2 and you're watching this, these elifs, don't worry about them. If you're in 4 point whatever, here's another example of elifs. So when the DVD.right side, this is a built-in property of a label, right? I need to make it. If the DVD's right side is greater than 400, so that was the case where we can see it right over here. Is it still moving? Let's try running. As the right side of the DVD gets to be more than 400, it hit that right side, then if it ever is more than 400, we are going to say, okay, we're going to change the movex to -5. So then every time I call the on-mouse move, now it's -5, it's going to start moving left. And this is basically all we do, just 4 times, checking for the right side, the top, the left, and the bottom. And again, the mirror thing. So if my DVD's left is less than 0, then I'm going to change my move to start moving to the right. And I used left and right instead of center X or center Y just so that you don't see it kind of going halfway off the screen and then bouncing back. It looks a little nicer this way. Same thing, the DVD's top. If it's less than 0, it's going to the top. Then I switch it from negative, which would make the Y go up, to positive Y, which is going to make it start going down. And then same thing at the bottom, we'll start going up. I also notice in my if and else if statements, in addition to changing the move, I end up calling our helper function change color, and I send it the DVD's current color count. Again, using global variables, this is going to end up being disgusting. I'm kind of unhappy with myself for having this be the solution, but whatever. You guys don't know any better yet. So I'm going to send my helper function change color, the current count on the DVD. So every time I hit the edge here, I'm changing the color. So now let's go take a look at that color change function. So this is a helper function that takes in an integer count as input. It will change the color of the DVD depending on the count. And then, I only made it be so many different colors. I could have used a modulus operator and RGB to just have it be without if statements and just always changing. But I don't think we talk about modulus operator in this at all yet. Maybe eventually we'll talk about the mod operator. And what was the other thing that we don't talk about that I didn't want to get into with that? I don't know. I don't want to get into it. So yeah, we did it this way because this is what we've covered so far in CMU. The function will change the color. Oh yeah, global variables suck. That's the other thing I wanted to mention about this. Again, I'm sorry. When I reset back to 0 when the count is at 6, so that I can just cycle between these 7 different colors. And then I mentioned in the comment, I'm going to stop talking about it. So, on change color count, I'm going to check based on whatever they sent me if the count is currently 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 all the way up until 6. No matter what, outside of my if statements, at the end of this function, I'm going to increment the count by +1. So every time I call this function, I'm going to change the global variable, the global DVD property to one more than what it's currently holding on to. And then all I do is that if the count is 0, I'm going to switch it to a red. I'm going to switch it to a blue or a yellow or a chartreuse or all these other different colors I chose. And then at the end, I increase it by 1. So the next time this function's called, it's going to go into a different if statement. The only last thing that I do, and I'll zoom in on it on the bottom here, is just once I get to 6 and I know that I'm going to want to reset, I change my color to orange. I set my color count to -1 because then I know that I'm going to increment right afterwards. It'll be 0, and then it'll restart over here. So every time I call the change color, it's going to, change the color, add 1, and the next time it would call, it would go over here. This is horrible coding practice. You really shouldn't do it this way, but it's the way that I did it for this solution. I hope that this explanation was helpful. I hope you learned something from trying out this challenge and then seeing the solution. And yeah, keep enjoying programming and keep trying, and I'll see you next time.